welcome to another video series about how to be a natural presenter. I'm Peter Roper, speaker, author, broadcaster and person known as a natural presenter. And thanks for taking the time to continue to go through this program. We've got this and one more video clip after this to go through, and I want to talk to you about the subject that everybody asks me about over and over again, and that subject is nerves, and that's what we're going to cover. But before I come to that, let's just recap what we've covered so far. I've talked about the fact that in my opinion there are three key areas, if you like, of natural presentation. There's structure, operational mechanics and nerves. There's a whole lot of stuff inside it, but there's three key areas. To be a natural presenter, to be yourself. My message to you throughout all these video clips is very simple. About being your natural self, about just being yourself, being a natural presenter. The more relaxed you are, the more comfortable you are, fantastic. Now we covered in the first video clip about structure, and we talked about one key area, which was why, and it was specifically why should you speak? Why are you speaking? The thought process of why you speak at all. Why speak for any situation? Why be the person to speak? Ask that question of yourself, because most people don't, and that's one of the major reasons why 4 out of 5 business presentations fail over and over again, because those people are standing there half the time, they don't know why they're doing it, they've just been told to do it, or they're doing it because they think they should, which is just not a reason for doing it at all. And because of that, the body language is wrong, their intonation is wrong, their enthusiasm is wrong, their passion is non-existent, and guess what? You get death by PowerPoint. So understand structure, and why is just one part of a 5-point plan that I give through on terms of structure, but that part of why is incredibly important. A small word, but a very, very important result from it. And then we looked at operational mechanics. And operational mechanics, I said to you that I believe there's a 4-part area there of pre-production, production, audience and post-production. Pre-production, production, audience and post-production. And I touched in just one area of pre-production. I looked at operational mechanics of pre-production, and I looked through some of those areas that I felt were very, very important. I covered some areas in pre-production, areas such as, have you got your kit? Have you got your kit bag? Have you got all that stuff that you need? You know that your laptop, your iPad, what kit else might you need? You might need a projector, you might need a stick of some sort, leads, all sorts of leads and things like that, slideshows, etc. And I remember to say to you, take some vocal zones, protect your voice. Voice is a very important thing. If you don't protect your voice, you'll miss it when it's not there, and that's a fact. So we said, have you got all your kit? Have you asked yourself a second question of, do you know where you're going? Have you actually spent the time and effort to actually find out where you're going? It doesn't matter if it's an internal meeting and you don't know which room you're going to, an external meeting and you don't know the place that you're going to, let alone where you're meeting inside it. Do you understand where you're going? And have you, to point number 3, allowed enough time? Have you made sure that if you're staying over that you've checked out the next day or wherever you're going to locally, actually the trip that you thought was all right actually takes an awful lot longer, you know, peak rush hour, etc. Have you worked out the timing of that, the timing of going into a building, timing of sitting down, the timing of being with people? Just think through timing. Timing's so important. And you know, on top of all that, it's just polite. The 4th one I said was clothing. I said, you know, being about your natural self. I'm natural in these clothes that I'm wearing at the minute, but I've been with a branding expert over many years, so I've honed a situation of understanding as I get older with less hair and different looks of how hopefully to make a reasonable fist of what I look like, but in a way that I'm comfortable with. But the thing to do is to check out, and I said last time, perhaps a little contentiously, that women are much, much better generally than men at checking this out. Not exclusively, but generally I believe that that's the case. Men generally just kind of turn up in the same clothes that they think is correct. Now here's the thing, have you found out? Have you checked out? Golden rule, if you're not sure, dress up so you can always dress down. So that's what I talked about. I talked about structure, and I've talked about operational mechanics. And now here's the one, so here's number 3, nerves. The one I'm asked over and over again. And I have a number 1 tip for nerves that I will share in another part of another series. But for now, nerves to me are important. In fact, if you're not nervous, I'd be more concerned. My belief is that if you have some nerves, it means you're interested in what you're doing. It means you care about what you're doing. Care enough to be nervous. And you know what? Nerves are good. What we need to do is to make sure they don't overtake us. They stop us. They slow us down. And we start to think about those things instead of the thing that we should be concentrating on is whatever the presentation is that you're trying to make. So how do you make nerves less? How do you make them go away? How do you get them in control? People say to me, I've got butterflies, they're going all over the place, I just want them to fly in formation, to use a phrase. Well, the thing is to think things through. And I think the first thing that you think through is really, really simple, which is, do you know what? If you think about structure, you'll immediately be less nervous. So for instance, and I haven't got time to share all the structural things with you today, but if you know why you're speaking and you're clear about it, don't you think you're going to be a little less nervous? I know that's true for me. So if you work on structure first of all and get that process in place, you will be less nervous. I promise you will absolutely be less nervous. And the second way you can be less nervous is, surprise, surprise, get operational mechanics working. Well, you might be thinking, well, you would say that, Peter, but it's true. That's why I'm sharing it with you right now. If only you've done pre-production on operational mechanics, if you've done the things I talked about knowing if you've got all your kit, you know where you're going, you've allowed enough time and that you're dressed correctly, don't you think you're going to be less nervous? Don't you think you will be more relaxed? I believe you will. So immediately, by doing some of the things that we've already talked about, that I've already shared with you and have given you, as with my compliments, you will be more a natural presenter. You will be able to speak better, and you'll be more comfortable. You'll be more relaxed. You'll be less nervous. But I think some of you, if you're in this right now, say, "Come on, Peter, give me some more ideas." And I'm going to give you one phrase with some ideas underneath it, just very, very briefly. And this isn't glib. This is something you need to think about. And the phrase is simple, which is, understand your body. Understand your body. So what do I mean by that? Well, simple things, for instance, which is, what have you eaten before you present? Maybe spicy food for an 8:30 meeting is not a clever move for all the more or less obvious reasons. Not least because you probably smell a spicy food, frankly, which is never a good move if you're trying to impress people when you're presenting. But clearly, what have you eaten? Have you eaten 30 seconds before you make a presentation? Do you know what? Life's not going to be quite so good, It's going to be a problem, potentially. Think about what you're eating beforehand. Likewise, even more importantly, think about what you're drinking. Fizzy drinks are not a clever move when you're making a presentation. But frankly, tea and coffee is not that clever either. Now, you're listening to somebody who used to drink coffee by the gallon. I gave up coffee and tea several years ago. And if you watch Peppermint Wednesdays, you'll see I generally drink peppermint tea or water. And of course, obviously, from time to time, I might have some alcohol or what have you. I never have alcohol before I make a presentational speech, ever, because I know I'm just not so good at it. Water is a very, very clever drink to drink when you're making a presentation. An even better drink is tepid water, slightly warm water, because cold water can affect your vocal cords. So tepid water, and plenty of it. I've got plenty of water here. Every time I'm making some sort of recording, I will take plenty of water because the throat dries out. So make sure you've got some water on hand. People often ask me, what do you want when you're making a major presentation? I'll say the key thing I want is to have a glass and a nice big jug or bottle of tepid water, preferably. So that's it, something to be clever with in terms of drink. Make sure your energy level's good. All right, don't go in with your energy level low. Now, I know sometimes we have challenges with low energy levels. It happens to the best of us. But find something that will work for you. Maybe, I don't know, Dextrosol or something that gives you some sort of sugar. I'm not saying you should sugar rush. And obviously, if you're more sugar dependent or less sugar dependent and, have insulin and all that sort of stuff, obviously you take doctor's advice. But what I am saying is make sure you've got something to keep your energy levels up for at least as long as you need to. Also suss out about understanding your body in terms of time. I'm coming back to time again, but in a very different way. Some of us are more morning people, some of us are more afternoon people, some of us are more evening people. And it really does depend on that situation and when you are at your best. So if you're a morning person, you like being up at 4 o'clock in the morning and you really get up and go, but by mid-afternoon you're shot, can I suggest that you try and make any form of speech or presentation in the morning? Makes sense, doesn't it? And likewise, if you're a night owl, change it accordingly. Also, don't only think about whether you are a morning bird or a late bird or what have you. What about the people you're presenting to? If you can, find out. Some of the people we work with, I know absolutely are morning birds, so in which case that presentation needs to be in the morning. There are others I know full well that unless they've had several cups of coffee and got going until mid-late morning, but preferably the afternoon, you know what, they're not at their best. It's not a criticism, it's just how we're wired. The thing is find out about yourself and try and find out about others, because that gives you your best chance. Again, if you're understanding your body, and perhaps the body of others for that matter, don't you think your nerves will be better? More general principle, I think, is perhaps relaxation techniques. Now, I'm not going to teach any of those here now. There are many people that are great at teaching relaxation techniques, and again, you could go and find these quite simply. You can YouTube them, you can Google whatever, you can go to some programs, you can meet some people and get some relaxation techniques that work very, very well. Find out what works for you. I know that I can relax myself before a presentation, and it takes me maximum 3 to 5 seconds, and I know that I'm then in a place where I can then make a presentation, so long as I've done all the work beforehand. If someone asks me to just stand up and speak, I'm the same as anybody else. I'm going to be just as nervous and uncomfortable, because guess what? I haven't thought about structure or operational mechanics, and the nerves kick in a lot stronger. So perhaps some relaxation techniques that you find work for you will make a big difference. Don't forget, I have a teacher, an English teacher, that told me when I was 12 that I was a cretin with a Birmingham accent to sit down and never speak again. So I understand about the little voice in people's heads that perhaps say, you're the person for this, and making you more nervous, and I know how to make that person not be on my shoulder, if that makes sense. So learn relaxation techniques. And the last thing is understand about being yourself. Find out the way you're most comfortable to present. Are you happy standing or sitting? What sort of method of standing do you like? How comfortable are you? Are you a person that moves more or less? Find out about how that works. And again, I haven't got time to share that with you now, but understand how you as a body physically work best when presenting, and play to those strengths whenever you can. So that's some idea about nerves, and in the series we've given you stuff on structure and operational mechanics, nerves itself, and I've given you some ideas of what works for me based on my experience of speaking in front of lots and lots of people over many, many years. And in the last video clip I want to give you the opportunity to learn about how you can get a lot more of this information and how it can benefit you immediately and make a major difference for you to help you to become a natural presenter, to be the best that you can be, and most of all, to be yourself. So I hope to see you on that last video clip, and for now, remember, if I can help you in any way, just let me know. Thanks for listening.